is normally the first class event this time actually took a embedded system which we had designed as a part of an Intel project. So that means student gets a grasp of real seeing an embedded system on the very first class will certainly help. That's what we did. So as far as the embedded system hardware is concerned, certainly we need the processor architecture and how, whether it's ARM or microchip or whatever, how the instruction sets are derived. And as I said yesterday itself, the most boring aspect of it would be one start teaching the instruction set on the board. Instead of that, it's a good idea to actually take a tool and start executing all of them, some simple instructions. And certainly, as a part of interfaces, sensors and actuators, a good coverage of that would be very useful. And both a bit of actual interfacing aspects would be useful. And when the embedded board talks to the interfaces, it will be one of the boards, so it's a good idea to cover what is I2C, SPI, and so on, serial communication and so on. And especially for the ECE people, it may be a good idea to continue the FPGA and ASIC part of it, because just stopping at the application programming, you just get a overview of what embedded system is, but actually when it is done on the FPGA, it gives a very good insight into the whole program. So coming to the operating system, certainly we need a good lot of RTOS basics and how multitasking, multi-threading is done and so on. And also subsystems, how they talk to each other. So one thing that as we continue, a good grasp of what is the development environment that they use, a bit about the details of that would be very useful. And usage of debuggers and emulators, because that is the place where you can actually go to the memory and check whether the registers have got the right values and the stack pointers, the current program status registers and so on. So one thing that came out after discussing with our mentors was a very useful aspect, the hardware and software co-design with the state flow diagrams. This is where the real meaning of design is going to come. Otherwise, if you are talking of instruction set and some bit of architecture, no design we are doing actually. So by doing some bit of state flow diagrams and so on, we can actually see what we are designing for, and we can see whether what we have designed for we have actually got the specifications. And we were suggested that by our mentor Professor Nandi that we could go for elevator control system, the normal applications that we see, vending machine and so on. So as far as the lab is concerned, so the basic IDE introduction to them would be useful, and things like LED, LCD interfaces, DC motors, etc. So certainly when you use the simulation environments, probably can give a better idea about a bit detailed interfaces and so on. So we could also have some mini projects given to the students as discussed here, so that they get a feel for what they are doing as a part of. That was a nice slide that I saw in the morning presentation, where you have a course project, you have a mini project, and you have a final year project. That kind of the migration from one to the other will be very helpful. And finally, just to wrap it up, what I since I'm teaching this semester embedded system, what I felt was actually teaching the theory on the board will be very, very boring and uninteresting for teacher as well as students. So I think it's a good idea to make it more lab based. Actually teach the course. Most of the course, if they start in the lab by actually executing and running things, then that would make a lot of sense. Probably this is true for quite a few other subjects also, and not that I'm doing everything right now, but it's a good pointer to me to do this. Thank you so much.
In the processing group, thanks to communication group, because some of the ideas that were suggested by them repeats, because signal processing and communication, there is a lot of overlap. I am Suresh from SIT, and our other teammates you could see. Our mentors are Professor Soumya and also Sumohana and Sriram from IT Hyderabad. what we thought is there should be few courses which are to be taught as a prerequisites. Discussing about it, even power systems will also need this course. Signals and systems, which will be taught in third semester. There was some discussion because I think that IIT's only one course is taught as a signal processing course, but we feel that a course on signals and systems prior to digital signal processing is a requirement. Probability and random process should be a prerequisite course for fourth semester when we are talking about statistical signal processing at a later stage. Digital signal processing as a fifth semester course, and the lab is the digital signal processing lab, which will include both software and hardware related experiments. Coming to the electives, these are some of the electives that we are proposing: a course on image processing, a course on speech processing, computer vision, multimedia communication, adaptive signal processing, statistical signal processing, DSP architecture, VLSI for signal processing, biomedical signal processing, radar signal processing. Some of the electives, and of course the list can be extended. Regarding labs, these are some of the tools that we propose. Of course, MATLAB, most of us are using. The sibling part of it would be included. In fact, in the third semester level itself, when we are teaching signals and systems. And we have a lot of open sources available these days: Scilab, Octave, Python, OpenCV, which could be introduced to the students not only while we are doing lab, but also when we are teaching the courses. Our assignments could be based on implementing some simple algorithms by using these open courses, open sources. And hardware AI boards are available, and we have some more like analog device boards, ARM boards, Raspberry, and of course the Panda board. The methodology we would like to propose is the core courses are to be taught experiment based, as you know. In fact, this is the suggestion by most of the previous speakers. Unless and until it is connected with the lab, it's very difficult to create interest in the students. So, however good we are in teaching linear convolution, unless and until they really convert to signals and look at the results, they don't appreciate. So, it would be good we take many of these to the laboratories or give it as maybe some experiments. And open-ended experiments are very interesting things to work on. Maybe give some simple ideas so that they can build these things. Tutorials, I think this is something which needs to be done for any signal processing course, because the students are supposed to work out problems, and it is necessary that tutorials are done along with some peer group who will be helping them. In fact, we are trying it at our institution. Coming to the electives, I think it could be project based, wherein we can involve some projects to teach these electives. There could be some mini projects given in the electives. We can ask them to build, develop some algorithms from the term papers. We can also ask the students to give presentations on advanced topics in these areas. And there could be some open research problems which could be taken up. And they can use this augmented course material like MOOCs, and there could be brainstorming by the students. Moving forward, I think we need to address some gap in the skills. Of course, the requirements would be the DSP boards, softwares, particularly open source, and of course some license. And thanks to Dr. Soumya, who was discussing yesterday, these biomedical images that he was mentioning, it would be nice if the students work on such real life problems, because they really would see where exactly the application is. To share my own experience, we have an MOU with a company called Fowler West of India Limited, where they are into the agricultural products. In fact, they are into sorting machines. In fact, 2 projects were given to our MTech students to sort rice and also peanuts. It's based on color. The students were really very happy doing such projects, because this is something which takes them to the real life scenarios. So in this direction, I think MOUs with medical or any other institutes would be a very interesting thing. And of course, some things like they should understand the requirements and we should get a perspective of the practical problems. So that's all from our group.
I'm going to announce it as of now. I'm just flashing some of the ideas that has come to our group's mind. Like if you go through all these things, like right from problems, programs, and whatnot, languages, correctness, and analyzing, and all these things. Now, the biggest problem for a computer graduate that is coming into picture is, like all these concepts through the computer science curriculum they are going to study. But the thing is again, why, how to fit these things into, and how to correlate these ideas into one another. So that's what we are going to see next quite in a short time off. From morning to evening, we are mainly where all of us know that our Indian universities were more strong in theory but not in. I strongly feel to do practicals, at least you should know a strong foundation. So that is the basic idea. And to be surprised, why we are strong in theory and why we are poor in practicals. Surprisingly, in my group, hardly there are 5. It is the least represented from among all our groups. That's what I can observe. Now, how can you expect strong foundations? That's again another problem that is coming up to picture. Now, if you remember, I have flashed some slides earlier. In the earlier slide, I have put right from programs to programming languages and theory of computations and all that. But the thing is how to correlate them. Now, can we do it? I need your help in this particular aspect. So, to start with, whether A is greater than B, so that's what we are going to call it as logic. Okay. And again, how to represent this particular logic into computer machine. Then we need theorems, rules. The moment I am talking about theorems, then again I need how to check it up whether these things are correct or not. I need some proofs there. So proof of correctness is going to come into picture. Next, again another proof is nothing but induction. Induction is one way where we can check up the correctness of a theorem. Can we group all these and can we give some name to that? That is the question that has come. So that's where we are calling this as mathematical foundations of computer sciences in some universities, theoretical foundations of computer science, or discrete mathematics. Coming further, now there are problems. To solve these problems, how to solve these problems? Again, you need a algorithm here. Again, after algorithms, you are going to give them using coding programs that you are going to call it as. Then again, to do that, again you need the help of data structures and whatnot, DBMS and all that. So together, all these things can be combined. So we have given one name to that particular course as data structures and algorithms. Whether it is the functional programming or object-oriented programming languages, or so these things will go on and on and on. All of us know that in the earlier days when C was there, then later on object-oriented programming methodologies, then again Java, then again whatnot, C#, C#, .NET. So these languages will keep on evolving. But the fundamental concept is what is the theory that goes behind these programming languages. The moment I am talking about a language, then again grammar. As one of my colleagues has asked, whether grammar is first or language is first. So these questions are going to come into each and every one of students' mind. So then again, how are you going to check it up, whatever languages you have developed for their correctness? I need a machine model for that. So that's where our abstract machine